and Scholarship Administrator at the Community Foundation of the Dan River Region. I encourage you to take a screenshot of my information so that you will have it for future contact. We are excited that you have joined us today for this educational experience. We know that many of you will have questions, and we are more than happy to answer them and assist you. In order to keep the presentation moving, we do request that you type your questions in the chat box throughout the presentation, and we will answer your questions at the end of the workshop. If you have additional questions that are not answered or have questions that you don't want to ask in the chat box, please call or email me. I will email this slide presentation together with the resources we will discuss today after the presentation is complete. We are currently working in the office and we do love visitors. You are always welcome to stop by our office at 541 Loyal Street and introduce yourself. So what is the Community Foundation of the Dan River Region? The Community Foundation of the Dan River Region is a public charity established in 1996 by a steering committee of civic leaders to meet a variety of charitable needs in the community. The foundation serves the city of Danville and Pittsylvania County to South Boston, Halifax County, Virginia, and Caswell County, North Carolina. At this time, grants are limited to 501c3 public charities and local government organizations who serve Danville, Pittsylvania County, and Caswell County. We are extremely grateful for our generous donors who make it possible to offer competitive grant awards. So first up, some important dates for you guys. Applications open today, June the 1st, and close on July the 30th. All submitted projects must fall in the designated time frame. If your project cannot be completed in 1 year, beginning January 1st, 2022, and ending December 15th, 2022, you should not apply for this grant cycle. So, how do we get started? All applications and supporting documentation are completed using our online system, Academic Works. If this is the first time your organization is applying for a grant from the foundation, you will need to visit the website listed here and create an account. If you are a returning organization, simply use the username and password you have used in the past to access the system. If you have any difficulty creating an account or you can't remember your username or password, please contact me, and as an administrator, I will help you to get into your account. I'm going to leave that there just a minute so you guys can take a chance to write that web address down. So when applying for the competitive grant cycle, this is a two-part application. You will begin by providing information about your organization. Once you submit part 1 of the application, you will complete the competitive grant application where you will provide specific information about your program or project. All uploaded documents should be saved as PDF, Word, or Excel files. Now, you have created your account on Academic Works. What information do you need to gather to complete your organization's application? First, you will need to provide some basic demographic information, including the organization name, the name of the contact person, and this may be the executive director, the grant or development officer preparing the application, a board member, etc. The contact person's title, the organization's mailing address, and this is important because you need to provide the address where checks will be mailed if you are granted an award. The best email address to reach your organization in case we have questions, the organization's website if you have one, and the organization's phone number. You will need to provide the organization's tax ID number. This number can be found on your IRS tax determination letter. You will also be responsible for uploading a copy of your organization's tax determination letter. This is the letter mailed to you from the IRS that shows your organization is a 501c3 or a government organization. If you have applied with the foundation in the past, you will notice a new section on our application this year. The foundation will now require current demographic data of the population served by your organization in order to have a better understanding of the beneficiaries of our funding. Your organization will submit a total number of how many people are served and break this information down by race, ethnicity, age, gender, and socioeconomic status. A population served template is available on our website, and you should use this form to complete the requirement. This document is in Excel format, and you may edit it in order to provide your organization's information. If you have difficulty preparing this document or utilizing the Excel program, please contact me and I will be more than happy to assist you. What other information? Organizational purpose overview. The purpose of an organization is the fundamental reason why the organization exists. It is the most central component of core culture. The purpose of an organization is not to answer the question, what do you do? That question typically focuses on products, services, and customers. To clarify, you should answer the question, why is the work you do important? Organizations must be clear on their purpose. It is the cause that defines one's contribution to society through work. Businesses exist to make a profit, but nonprofits exist to make a difference. A one-page document is sufficient for the organizational purpose overview. We also need your list of current board of directors, and you will attach this as an upload in the application. The next slide will address organizational budget. For organizational budget, we request that you upload the supporting documentation. A preferred organizational budget template is available on the foundation website for your use. This section relates only to your organization and not the project for which you are requesting funding. Please do not submit the same budget for both organizational budget and project budget. Also, please do not handwrite your budget. The template provided on our website is an Excel document which may be edited. You are not required to use this template. This is only a suggested resource to assist you in your preparation. It is acceptable to submit an existing budget format that your organization currently uses. The organizational budget template is an example of what your organizational budget should include. You should think of this as your operating budget. This document will include revenue for your organization, such as grants, government contracts, donations, fundraising income, membership income, and other sources of revenue. You should include operating expenses, which may include salary, benefits, travel expenses, equipment, supplies, printing and copying, various fees, and all other operating expenses. If you have questions about this document, please contact our office and we will be glad to assist you one-on-one outside of this presentation. This is a new section to the application, organizational financial strength. 501c3 organizations must now upload the most recent board-approved balance sheet and income statement. If you are a local government organization, not a 501c3 organization, you are not required to provide this information. We have included here examples of each document. The document example on the left is the balance sheet, also known as a statement of financial position. A balance sheet is a financial statement that reports an organization's assets, liabilities, and net assets at a specific point in time and provides a basis for computing rates of return and evaluating its capital structure. The document example on the right is the income statement. An income statement, also known as a profit and loss statement, shows how profitable your organization was over the course of a specific accounting period. The balance sheet tells you what your organization's assets and liabilities are, while the income statement tells you how your organization used them. This year, the foundation is requesting information regarding federal and state COVID-related funding. In order to provide a complete financial picture of the organization, please list all support the organization has received through federal and state funding, including CARES Act, American Rescue Plan, COVID relief grant payments, or forgivable loans from March 2020 to present. If support was received, please tell us what the impact was from the funding on the organization. Please provide specific examples. Did it replace customary funding from the same sources? Did it allow continuing employment of personnel? Did it replace expected donor funding? Were operations and programs continued or cut back by the organization? This information should be typed in a document and uploaded to the application system. You should save the application with each change made. Saving the application will allow you to complete the application in multiple settings. You may begin work on the application and come back at a later date to complete it. Once you have completed all the required questions and attached everything requested for the general application, please remember to click the Submit, not the Save button. As this is a two-part application, you will not proceed to the competitive grant cycle application without submitting the general application. Keep in mind that although you click Submit, you may still go back and change information in your application all the way up to the submission deadline, which is July 30th, 2021. We've now made it to part 2 of the application process, the competitive grant cycle application. Please remember that this portion of the application specifically addresses the program or project for which you are requesting funding. First, you will provide the general purpose of the project. Briefly describe how the funds will be used, noting any opportunities for partnership or collaboration. Please discuss your program or project and not your organization as a whole. The amount of grant request. You will enter the amount of funds you are requesting for the program or project discussed. Anticipated project start date. Projects must be completed in 1 year. This date should be between January 1st and December 15th of the following year. You are submitting the application in June of 2021. Your project start date will fall between January 1st, 2022 and December 15th, 2022. Anticipated project completion date. This date should also fall between January 1st, 2022 and December 15th, 2022. This year, we're requesting a project timeline and implementation plan. You will attach the project timeline and implementation plan into your application. A project timeline template is available on the foundation website for your use. You are not required to use this template. This is only a suggested resource to assist you in your preparation. It is acceptable to submit a typed narrative outlining your timeline and implementation plan. A project timeline is a canvas of project deliverables. It provides a simple but comprehensive overview of a project from start to finish. A detailed timeline paints a roadmap for your project with milestones, tasks, dependencies, and delivery dates. It determines project capacity and builds the anticipated schedule for your project. An implementation plan for a project refers to a detailed description of actions that demonstrate how to implement an activity within the project in the context of achieving the objectives, addressing the requirements, and meeting the expectations. Statement of need. Please describe what need the project fills in the community. If the project or program is not funded, what is the impact on the population you serve? A needs statement establishes the rationale for a project by clearly identifying the gap or problem within a specific community. A needs statement should determine the focus an organization will take by addressing the particular needs of a specific target audience through a very distinct project. The needs statement should also explain to a funder what the community requires or what it is lacking, and defines the underlying issues the applicant is addressing. Ultimately, the needs statement should answer the questions: what is the problem or need, and is there evidence or data that shows the scope of the problem? In addition, we ask you to list any additional funding sources. If you will have additional funding for the program or project outside of potential funding from the foundation, please list them in your application. For program evaluation and outcomes, please describe specific objectives and anticipated outcomes for your program. How will you measure the success of your program? Specific objectives specify the strategic goals of the program and are measurable, realistic, achievable, and timely. When creating this section, you should address the SMART objective questions listed in the chart on this slide. And just as an information, these slides will be sent to you all at the end of this presentation. If the applicant is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, please attach a letter of support signed by either the executive director or board president. If the applicant does not have its own 501c3 designation and is covered under the tax ID number of local government, please obtain a letter from the appropriate city or county administrator providing permission to apply for the grant. Applications are considered incomplete without this letter of approval. Please also attach any additional supporting documentation. If there is any additional information you would like to share with us regarding your program or project, including flyers, data, participant testimony, program materials, etc., please share them under additional supporting documentation. The next slide will address program budget. Please provide a detailed program project budget. A preferred program budget template and program budget example are available on the foundation website for your use. This section relates only to the program budget, the program you're requesting funding for, and not the organizational budget. Please do not submit the same budget for both organizational budget and project budget. And again, please do not handwrite your budget. The template provided on our website is an Excel document which may be edited. You are not required to use this template. This is only a suggested resource to assist you in your preparation. It is acceptable to submit an existing budget format that your organization currently uses. This slide is an example of what your program budget should include. You will provide program-specific information, including outside revenue from other grants, contracts, contributions, membership fees, and fundraisers. You should indicate which revenue will be utilized for the project. In addition, you should include expenses specific to the program, including supplies, printing, marketing, travel, etc., and list which of the expenses will be covered by the grant. If you have questions about this document, please contact our office and we will be glad to assist you one-on-one outside of this presentation. The Community Foundation of the Dan River Region understands that COVID-19 may continue to have a severe impact on your organization's ability to fundraise. In response, for the 2021 competitive grant cycle, we are allowing grant applicants to apply for funds to help cover operating expenses. For example, rent, utilities, and other administrative expenses. Requests for funds to cover payroll or salaries are ineligible. The Community Foundation will not accept grant applications for payroll or salaries. Organizations have the option to either apply for operating expense support or funding for specific programs and projects. If you are planning to apply for operating expenses, please visit www.cfdrr.org/grants/applying for a grant and download the document labeled Operating Expenses Supplement to obtain instructions for a supplementary document needed for the competitive grant cycle, or you may contact me and I will be happy to email the document to you. Again, you should save the competitive grant application with each change made. Saving the application will allow you to complete the application in multiple settings. You may begin work on the application and come back at a later date to complete it. Once you have completed all the required questions and attached everything requested for the competitive grant cycle application, remember to click the Submit, not the Save button. If you do not click Submit, your application will not come to us for review. Again, keep in mind that although you click Submit, you may still go back and change information all the way up to the submission deadline, which is July 30th, 2021. Staff and board review of applications begins shortly after the application deadline. The Community Foundation Distribution Committee meets to determine the first round of application cuts and recommends site visits for organizations. If your organization is recommended for a site visit, either a member of our staff or board will contact you to set up a convenient time to visit your organization. Many times, questions can be answered with a simple email or phone call. We may contact you by either method if there are questions about your application. The distribution committee will meet once the site visits have concluded to determine final grant awards. Letters are then mailed to all applicants to inform them if they have or have not received a grant award. You received an award. What comes next? First, organizations will receive their award notifications in mid-December. In that letter, you will also receive a performance grant agreement. which should be signed by chief board and staff representatives. Ideally, this will be your executive director and the president of your board. Once signed, please return the original document to our office. We cannot accept digital copies. Also, we cannot provide the check to the organization until we receive the original for our files. Checks are provided mid-January, pending receipt of all required reports and financial documents for the previous year's grant, either at our annual grant reception when COVID is not a factor, or through the mail until we are allowed to gather in large groups again. Your organization will be responsible for providing interim grant reports, final grant reports, and a 3-minute video. The following slides will address those individually. The interim grant report. This report is due in June of the award year. If you have not completed your program or project by this time, you are required to provide this document to the foundation. You are required to provide the following information. Fiscal report. Please detail what funds have been spent. Please be as specific as possible by attaching a summary of expenses with copies of canceled checks and receipts. If funds have not been spent, please note how and when funds are to be used prior to the due date of the final grant report in mid-December. You must provide the foundation with appropriate supporting documentation, canceled checks, credit card receipts, invoices, etc. We cannot accept spreadsheets without documentation to support them. Progress statement. Please describe the progress of your project up to this point, along with a timeline for completion. Discuss the ways your project is impacting your program and/or community. Address any challenges you are encountering with your project. The final grant report. This report is due upon 30 days of completion of the project, but not later than December of the award year. If you complete your project at any time during the award year, your report must be turned in within 30 days of completion. Please do not wait until December to turn in your final report if the program has been completed before then. You are required to provide this document along with supporting information by the required deadline. When completing your final grant report, the following information is required. Fiscal report. How were the funds expended? Be as specific as possible by attaching a summary of expenses along with copies of canceled checks and receipts. Any remaining or unaccounted for funds must be returned to the community foundation by the final grant report due date, as clearly stated in the grant agreement that your board president will sign. You must provide the foundation with appropriate supporting documentation, canceled check copies, credit card receipts, invoices, etc. Again, we cannot accept spreadsheets without documentation to support them. Impact statement. Please describe the impact the foundation's grant had on your program or project, as well as the community as a whole. This statement is extremely important. Please do not submit one-sentence impact statements. The statement should be detailed, specific, and explain the significance of your program or project, how it benefited the community, and the impact the foundation's grant had on your ability to provide the program or project to the community. We may use information provided in your impact statement in marketing materials for the foundation and our annual report, Facebook, Constant Contact, and our competitive grant recipient program. We want to share the work you are doing with our donors and community. Attach one additional sheet of paper explaining the impact of these funds. Be specific, give examples, and address the following. Need or opportunity that was met or problem solved. Outcomes. This includes increased knowledge or changed behavior and measurements used. Challenges encountered with the program or project and how they were met. and any additional information or comments. Population served. If you were a previous grant recipient, please be advised this is a new requirement for the final grant report going forward. The foundation will now require demographic data of the population served by your program or project. You will submit a total number of how many people are served by your program or project and break this information down by race, ethnicity, age, gender, and socioeconomic status. You may use the same population served template that you utilized for the organizational part of your application. The document is available on our website, and you should use this form to complete the requirement. In addition, a copy of this document will be mailed to you with your grant award letter. This document is in Excel format, and you may edit it in order to provide your program or project information. In the final grant report form, please provide a 1 or 2 sentence statement sharing how this grant has changed or touched lives. Please remember that you should return the final grant report form to the foundation together with all required documentation. We must have the final grant report form as a cover page for your submission. Please take pictures of your program or project during the year. Send photos of your grant project or general photos of your organization, or enclose a hard copy of the photos, or email them to me at Crystal, KRYSTAL, @cfdrr.org if possible. The pictures you provide may be used in marketing materials for the foundation and our annual report, Facebook, Constant Contact, and our competitive grant recipient program. In the last year, we have received many requests for grant extensions and repurposing of funds due to COVID-related issues. We recognize you may face challenges, and the foundation attempts to accommodate grantees when we are able. You should have an early indication that you will not be able to fulfill your grant requirements well before the final grant report due date, and we encourage you to contact our staff to discuss options as soon as you are aware of any difficulties. Requests for extensions and repurposing must be reviewed by our designated board members. This process can take time, especially if there is additional information requested by our board members. With this in mind, all requests for extensions and repurposing of funds must be received in writing by December 1st. Emails should be sent again to my email address at crystal@cfdrr.org. We are requesting our grantees to provide a brief video, no longer than 3 minutes, describing the program for which you received grant funding and the impact it has on your organization and the community as a whole. This is due in conjunction with the final grant report in December. You may email your video, depending upon file size, to me, or provide the video to our office on a jump drive or CD. Grantee videos will potentially be shared on our website and social media. This will allow you to share the impact your program and organization are having with a larger audience, especially current and potential donors who make grant funding possible. If you have any questions about what to include, do not have access to record, or are unsure how to utilize this technology, please contact our office and we will be glad to assist you. We are willing to schedule an appointment to record your video in our office if you are unable to do so on your own. Please request your appointment at least 2 weeks before the final grant report is due. The slides and notes from this presentation will be emailed to today's registered participants. In addition, you can visit our website at www.cfdrr.org/grants/applying for a grant to access all of the resources and templates we have discussed today. If there are others you would like to share this workshop with, or if you would simply like to review the presentation, we will upload the recording to our website, hopefully by the end of this week. You may access the video by visiting the web address shared on this slide. Please feel free to recommend the presentation to any coworkers who need access to the information or to other organizations that were unable to participate today. We will now review questions submitted in the chat box. We welcome your questions. If you have not already typed a question and need clarification on something presented, please feel free to enter your question now and I will address them in order. Okay, one of the first questions on the demographic chart, should we list historical data or expected data? 2020 was an unusual year for many organizations and may not show a true picture. And we also recognize too that this is a new requirement that some of you may not be familiar with. And again, with the whole COVID issue, and some of you may not necessarily have been tracking this information that we're just all of a sudden asking for. You have a good feel for your organization. You have good estimates. You're accustomed to working in these programs. So we're going to ask you to look back at some of your historical data and provide us your best analysis on this demographic information. We realize that it may not be down to an exact number of people, but again, you're familiar with your organizations and you know typically in a program or in a year how many people that you serve and can give us your best estimate of that information. All right, let's see. If it's a city, you want the city's budget. Yes. Yes. I mean, if you don't have your own 501c3 designation and you are filing under the local government organization, which in this case you're asking about the city, yes, we're going to need to have the city budget information. Whoever that you're filing under, their tax information, their budget is going to have to be provided. And again, Paulette, I see that you're asking, you said you do not collect demographic information. We realize again that this is a new process, and you're going to have hopefully a good estimate of your population. Give us the best estimate of that population that you can. And going forward, this is something that we're hoping to keep doing. So we would just ask that you start to track this information, again, because it gives us a picture of who the beneficiary of funding, who those beneficiaries are. And again, it's a concept that I'm sure you guys are going to be more and more familiar with, and something that we're seeing here in the organization is a heavy focus on DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this is one way for us to step into that and kind of see how our funding is going for that. Kim asks, can the grant be a split of both operating expenses and a project? And the answer to that is no. It has to be one or the other. So we will consider an application either for operating expenses or for a project, but you have to pick one. So that's a good question. Thank you. Let's see. What happens if a board member wanted to conduct a site visit, but the organization does not have a physical location? Can they meet the designated board member at a public location to discuss the potential grant? So that's a really good question. And we have had in the past organizations who are 501c3s, but they don't have a physical location, or say, for example, they're just running that organization out of somebody's basement, and they're an established organization, but they don't actually have a brick and mortar place. And the answer to that is that, yes, we would encourage a public location meeting. And again, either one of our staff or our board members will reach out to the representative of that organization to set up a good time. And then another alternative, and we've had some organizations to offer, if they're specifically running a program that happens to fall in the time of when we're doing the review of the grant applications, many times they'll offer to have one of our board members to come and actually see that program in action and be able to get a feel for that program. So we have several options if there's not actually a brick and mortar location for the 501c3 organization. What is the maximum amount of grant funds we can ask from the community foundation? To my knowledge, we don't have a maximum amount to ask, but we also keep in mind that there are many organizations that are requesting funding. We would love to be able to fund everybody that applies because there are wonderful programs in our area, and you guys are all hardworking in the community, and we want to fund as many as we can. So it may be that an organization asks for a really high amount, and our board may meet to determine that they'll only get what we consider partial funding if it's an extremely high amount to ask. So to my knowledge, I don't think we have a maximum ask amount. Let's see. So I have a direct message. Somebody is asking, other than this session, do you offer grant writing assistance for those who want to improve writing skills for all grants? And my response to that is, we don't have specifically like a grant writing, I guess, clinic or anything established. But I would say to you all that, like I said in the beginning, our doors here are always open. We love having visitors. If you're a new organization and you're just getting into this, and this is your first time to look at writing a grant application, and you're not exactly sure what to do, and you still have questions after this session is over, reach out to me. We want to help you guys, and we want to see you succeed. We want you to have good applications that are going to impress our reviewers. So if you still have questions after this session, please feel free to reach out to me. And between the resources of our staff here in the office, not just me, we will assist you and try to guide you in the right way. So the next question is, will the demographic information and the other new requirements such as videos be required for 2021 final reports? So the answer to that is the videos, yes, because this year when we sent out grant checks in January, we were unable to host the normal in-person grant reception. And so in order for us to still have exposure from you guys back to the donors and back to the community as a whole, we asked you guys to start doing the videos this year to turn in with your final grant reports. Now, as far as the other requirements, as far as like the demographic information and any of the new stuff that we've talked about here today, those won't be required until 2022. So if you already received a grant for grant funding for 21, those new forms will not go in effect until next year, until January 2022. So this year's business as usual. Then next year is when the new requirements for reporting will start, with the exception of the video. Let's see. And if your organization is young, say less than 2 years old, can we still apply for a grant? And the answer to that is yes, you can still apply for a grant. You can expect probably that we're going to request a site visit because we want to get to know you. We want to get to know your people and your organization and your programs and what you're doing. But yes, you can still apply for a grant. And then can you give us a range on past amounts and a typical amount for? And I'm guessing you mean what people have requested for funding and then a typical amount that's been approved. And that's really a hard question to answer because so many of our organizations are doing such different things, and it's such a broad spectrum of funding that we're doing. So, you know, for example, at any given time when we're doing a competitive grant cycle, we have a lot of the like first responders, and then we have social services, and we have feeding programs, and we have those that are supporting the backpack programs, and those that are supporting the arts, and those that are supporting animal, animal welfare. So it's so different, and the programs that you all are doing are so different, and the amounts again that you're requesting and the amounts that are awarded are so wide ranging. That's really a hard answer. I don't know that I can give you a typical amount because I don't necessarily say that there is a typical amount that we award. It just depends on the funding that we have available and how many grants or grant applications that we receive and the amounts that the organizations are requesting. And again, we try to do and fund as many of those as we can. Let's see. If we are applying for operating expenses, are the requirements for the application the same as with a specific project? Yes. Yes, the application is still the same. If you are applying for operating expenses or program support, the application is the same. The only difference is there is a supplemental form that if you are going to apply for those operating expenses, that you have to prepare that supplemental form for operating expenses. And there's a section in the application for you to upload that specifically. So that's the only difference, is that extra requirement for the operating expenses. So, and I think that looks like all of the questions, unless anybody else has any other questions. Let's see. I have another question. It says, can you confirm that the operational expenses cannot include personnel? And that is correct. Operational expenses, when you're submitting your application to support operational expenses, it will not include salaries. That is one stipulation that our board has, is that for the operational expenses, we will not pay and support employee salaries. All right. So if you have further questions that we did not address during the presentation, again, please feel free to contact us with any questions that you guys may have about the application process. Again, we're here. We want to help you. We want you to succeed. And so we just welcome you to give us a call, drop by, send us an email. You also may find a lot of answers to your questions listed on that website. Again, it's that grants and applying for a grant. I encourage you guys to go there. There are a lot of resources that are there. And we also encourage you to review the website and discover the range of services that the foundation provides. One example is our agency endowment funds. And agency endowment fund, it provides a permanent source of revenue for your agency's operations. And that's money that you don't have to fundraise every year to receive. And it can be an answer to long-term sustainability. The agency maintains flexibility in how grants are used from that endowment, and it's an unrestricted source of support for your mission. The permanent endowment fund gives organizations the opportunity to create a fund that generates investment income year after year, which can be drawn down in annual payments to the organization or reinvested in the fund to grow over time. Permanence of an endowment fund is both appealing and reassuring to donors and nonprofit boards of directors who seek the enduring value of a dedicated source of income to support the organization that they love. If your organization is interested in establishing an agency endowment fund, we encourage you to contact us and request more information. So we appreciate all of you. I know, like I say, yesterday,